God's True Church, and in this topic, there are actually 23 slides. In this topic, we will discuss the purpose of why the Church of God is being established, okay? The purpose why church is being organized or established, and how we can identify a church, okay? How we can identify the church. Now, are there conditions for being chosen as the Church of God? So these are the three subtopics that we're going to study. And so let's go to the first one, purpose for the church, okay? What is the purpose for the church, actually? Now, the word church, in the Greek word for the church, okay, is actually ecclesia. This is from the Strong's G1577, ecclesia, which means a calling out or religious congregation. Okay, so being called out, what is the purpose? In Matthew 5:13-15, it says here, ye are the salt of the earth. But if the salt have lost its savor, wherewith shall be it salted, it is thenceforth good for nothing, but to be cast out and to be trodden under foot of men. So the church is supposed to be a salt to the earth. And also in verse 15, neither do men light a candle and put it under a bushel. Okay, let me I think there's another verse here actually being missing. Ye are the light of the world, a city that is set on a hill that cannot be hid. So God's church is supposed to be the light of the world. It is also called a city that is set on a hill, cannot be hid. So a church is compared like a city that is set on a hill that cannot be hid. Neither do men light a candle and put it under a bushel, but on a candlestick, and it giveth light unto all that are in the house. So this is the purpose why God actually called the church, established a church, okay? And we know that God's church is not an institution, is not a building, but it is the people who love God and keep His commandments. This is found in Upper Luke. But God's church has been always, it says here in Acts of Apostles 163, paragraph 1, God has made His church on the earth a channel of light, and through it He communicates His purposes and His will. He does not give to one of His servants an experience independent of and contrary to the experience of the church itself. So in a church, a group of people, one person is not only given a light, contrary to the members of the church. Yeah, they have to be in harmony. They have to be united. This is what it says here. In other words, the people of God are going to be united in that message. Okay? Neither does He give one man a knowledge of His will for the entire church, while the church, Christ's body, is left in darkness. In other words, God is not only giving one person, He's giving everyone the light. Okay? It doesn't mean that in this group here, only one person knows everything. No, everyone should study. Okay? They're all the same. We will have the same, we will speak the same word, the same message. That's what it says here. That's the purpose for the church. Okay? Just like when we encountered, there was one time when we were in California giving away some tracts in the park, and we encountered a Jehovah's Witness, and this mother has a boy. As we were discussing to the mother, the boy was also trying to explain to us something. In other words, the boy was in harmony with the mother, you know. In other words, the boy knows also. Not just, you're just going with somebody and you don't know. You know, you're going to where you're not equipped. But it says here that He gave one, neither does He give one man a knowledge of His will for the entire church. While the church, Christ's body, is left in darkness, each one of us will know. In his providence, he places servants in close connection with his church in order that they may have less confidence in themselves and greater confidence in others whom he is leading out to advance his work. Another quotations from Acts of Apostles in the same book. The church is God's fortress, his city of refuge. And I think the word refuge here, what is the word refuge? It is shelter, a place, a safe place, a shelter from danger and hardships, a place for people who need assistance. So this church, it is a place of shelter from danger. So people can come actually, and hardships, a place for people who need assistance. I think that's something we need to embrace, Abraham, when he was visited with 3 strangers, what did he do? He just, I can't, I'm sorry, you can't come to me. No, he actually entertained them, What happened? They were like, they're like VIPs. I think that's how Abraham accommodated the 3 strangers. Just sit down, I will wash your feet and relax, I will prepare some food. They're not just, they're visitors, They're not just people living in the house already that come on, help me. No, they are being treated nicely. That's it. So that is the church, as a city of refuge, which he holds in a revolted world. Any betrayal of the church is trickery to him who has bought mankind with the blood of his only begotten Son. It says here, from the beginning, faithful souls have constituted the church on earth. In every age, the Lord has had his watchmen who have borne a faithful testimony to the congregation in which they live. These sentinels gave the message of warning, and when they were called to lay off their armor, others took up the work. God brought these witnesses into covenant relation with himself, uniting the church on earth with the church in heaven. He has sent forth his angels to minister to his church, and the gates of hell have not been able to prevail against his people. So this is the kind of church that even Satan is now much. Okay? It says here, the gates of hell have not been able to prevail. Why? Because it says faithful souls have constituted the church on earth. Okay? And this people also that is in that church as a church gave the message of warning. They warned the people of what is going. Are we doing that here? Yes, we're warning. So when they were called to lay off their armor, others took up the work. So we need to make sure that we know what message we have, so that we can share. How can we warn people if we don't know the truth, right? Making sure that we know. Okay. And it says here in Acts of Apostles, another quotations from page 13. From the beginning, God has wrought through his people to bring blessing to the world. To ancient Egyptian nation, God made Joseph a fountain of life. Was Joseph a fountain of life to the Egyptians? He was, right? He actually saved the whole Egypt. Not just the whole Egypt, I think the whole world, right? Because there were 7 years of famine. That's a long famine. What's going to happen if we have that here? I don't think we can survive. But Joseph became the blessing to the Egyptians. He became a fountain of life. Through the integrity of Joseph, the life of that whole people was preserved. Through Daniel, God saved the life of all wise men of Babylon. And these deliverances are as object lessons. They illustrate the spiritual blessings offered to the world through connection with the God whom Joseph and Daniel worship. So basically through us, if we truly are serving the Lord, then we can actually save the people here, through us. If they come, if they listen, they listen to the warning. Everyone in whose heart Christ abides, everyone who will show forth his love to the world, is a worker together with God for the blessing of humanity. As he receives from the Savior grace to impart to others, from his whole being flows forth the tide of his spiritual life. Now, who was the church established in the beginning? What was the church? What was the established church? What was the first established church that Christ actually was leading? The children of Israel. Okay, what was the purpose? It says here, God chose Israel to reveal his character to men. Okay, he desired them to be as wells of salvation. Okay, in the world, to them were committed the oracles of heaven, the revelation of God's will. In the early days of Israel, the nations of the world, through corrupt practices, had lost the knowledge of God. They have once known him, but because they glorified him not as God, neither were thankful, but became vain in their imaginations, their foolish heart was darkened. Romans 1:21. Yet in mercy, God did not blot them out of existence. He purposed to give them an opportunity of again becoming acquainted with him through his chosen people. So Israel actually was being chosen by God as a light to the world. So even though Israel did not really completely, sometimes there were times that Israel did not listen to God. And sometimes when Israel doesn't listen to God, he actually allows somebody to lead in that established body, just like Gideon, just like Jephthah. These were actually the judges who were leading the children of Israel. And sometimes if they disobey God, what happened? They are being what? Being captives from other nations. Okay? And that is the purpose of why God established a church, to become light to the world. So we're here. Our purpose is what? To also become light. Okay? We need to warn people what is going to happen. And that's what we're doing actually. Now, how to identify the church of God? Okay? Let's go to the next subtopic here. How do we identify? According to Matthew 16, this is what Jesus said. And I say also unto thee, he's speaking to Peter here, that thou art Peter, and upon this rock I will build my church, and the gates of hell shall not prevail against it. Now, who is this rock? Huh? According to Psalms, the Lord is my rock and my fortress and my deliverer, my God, my strength, in whom I will trust, my buckler and the horn of my salvation and my high tower. In Psalms 18:31, for who is God save the Lord? Or who is a rock save our God? So our God is the rock. And Psalms 31:3, for thou art my rock and my fortress. Therefore, for thy name's sake, lead me and guide me. And also in Psalm 61, this is a very nice text, that when your heart is overwhelmed, lead me to the rock. That is Christ. Yes. When my heart is overwhelmed, lead me to the rock that is higher than I. For thou hast been a shelter for me and a strong tower from the enemy. I will abide in thy tabernacle forever. Now, this kind of church, okay? This church, it says here, even the gates of hell shall not prevail against it. Nothing. Satan doesn't have no much to this church, because this church is founded upon Christ. That's what it is. But when the church is not founded upon Christ, it says they can use the quotation that says, the church may appear about to fall, but it will not fall. It's falling already, But this church is not going to fall, because Christ is the rock. He is there. And that's why I remember the song that says what? There's a song.